This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host, Phil Barrera, aka Phil the Filipino.
And I'm your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And for this edition of International Feature, we are continuing to follow a trend. When we're looking for international films, sometimes there are these high-profile, high-scoring movies on things like Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd, that just catch our eye. And as two people who aren't really into sports anime, but are a fan of a pretty big one that we're representing here tonight, we thought it would be a good idea to jump into a series that has been very popular, but a movie that is supposed to be pretty nice to new fans and trying to get them in. That movie is called The First Slam Dunk.
Yeah, this is very familiar. If you've ever been to an anime convention, you'll see a lot of people representing it. And it's something I've been familiar with and, very aware of, but never really wanted to kind of take the dive until, of course, this came around. And, we'll see how this episode goes, because based on scores and feedback, a lot of people love this one. And, just remember that everything is objective. just remember that people are allowed to like what they like. So I'll just start it off that way, I guess.
We're off to a rough start.
I also didn't look up how to pronounce any of this, so I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce the director's name.
Well, you know what? While Phil gathers himself and figures that out, because I lean on him specifically for that, I will add context to why we chose this movie. And obviously, this episode is dropping around the time of Bull Matsuri, which made us want to make the international feature episode an anime film or series. So The First Slam Dunk has been talked about in a lot of film circles by a lot of people. And one of the things I was really scared about was that this is a movie that takes place within an existing, long-standing, and old anime series. But everything that I researched and reviews that I had read, it seemed to be catered to both existing fans and new fans of this story. With the scores behind it, the fact that Phil randomly brought up, like, maybe we do The Last Dance as a option, covering Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
I was going to say, was this your compromise?
I was thinking, I was like, oh, basketball, seems, and I was like, maybe
red jerseys.
Red jerseys, the Bulls. So maybe we could give this a shot. And I gotta say that this isn't quite the movie I thought it was. But I am excited to dive into both the highs and the lows, because for me, international feature at first, I think in conception, was like, let's just highlight all these great international films. But that's easier said than done. You know what I mean? And I think what this series has really been about is featuring international films that you may not know about and how we reacted to them, which is essentially what we do with Late to the Party in Things of Pop Culture. Now, this movie is fairly successful. We'll talk about some of those numbers, I'm sure, as well. But from a pop culture standpoint, while we see them at conventions, I don't know that we talk about the Slam Dunk series in everyday life like we would other anime series. So that's why it ended up here on International Feature. And Phil, I know we'll get in a synopsis and everything, so I will let us get started there.
Yeah, aesthetically, it's very, very iconic. Like, you can be walking around and you'll see like the manga or like a poster or some artwork, and you're like, oh, that's from the basketball anime. Even if you don't know necessarily like exactly the name of it. So, First Slam Dunk came out in 2022. And it was directed by Tahiko Inoue. Look at that. Look how fast I am. I'm a fast learner. Now, the rest of this synopsis might be rough, so I apologize I couldn't look up everything. But Shoku's speedster and point guard Ryota Miyagi always plays with brains and lightning speed, running circles around his opponents while feigning composure. In his second year of high school, Ryota plays with the Shoku High School basketball team, along with Sakuragi, Rukawa, Akai, and Mitsui as they take the stage at the Inter-High School National Championship, and now they are on the brink of challenging the reigning champions, Sino Kogyo High School. And one thing that has always kind of like drawn me to this, Eric, right, and probably you as well, is the art style. And regardless of how this thing has started off and how we're alluding to how we've responded to it, one thing that is undeniable, Eric, I've never seen an anime animated like this. It is insane. Down to, you know that I'm a very big basketball fan, down to the feeling of like the sound design, like feeling like you're on the court, the importance of what that sounds like when people are like being really physical, like in the paint, and also defense, and of course the most important thing, which is the ball going into the basket. The very, very like realistic sounds when it came to the basketball hitting the rim and the backboard. It's insane. Like if you weren't looking at the screen and you were just listening, you would think that you were listening to like an actual like high school, college basketball game. And that was absolutely insane from the get-go. I was like, what is this animation? This is crazy. And I think it's a combination of CGI as well as 2D, if I remember correctly, correct?
Yeah, 3D, CGI, and hand-drawn 2D animation. And it's so funny that you bring that up as the first talking point, because that was going to be a question to you, was like, how did you react to it? Because for me, it took maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and then I was in it. Like, and that's a risky choice when it comes down to adding those 3D and CG elements, because they don't always work. And in this movie, it made it feel really special. Skipping way too far ahead, in the same breath, they also do some special things towards the end of the film, which is such a sports cliche, you know, like that final minute or 30 seconds of a game. It was really cool, some of the things that they did in that standpoint in that scene. So there were like really good scenes that showed that this blend can work. And I think when I saw the trailer, I was worried about how I would feel about it, but I got over it pretty quickly, which is probably the most positive thing I can say, is I overcame that kind of trepidation very quickly.
Yeah, you're seeing this kind of, because, you know, 2022, and I've also heard people talk about the difference in animation style from the original, and some of that has been good, some of that has been mixed as far as the response, but most people have said that they really enjoyed the upgrade in terms of the animation. And we're seeing, you know, a lot of people credit, you know, of course, the Spider-Verse films with this kind of renaissance we're seeing in animation. And I'm sure there are other examples, but that's the one that's the most prevalent, right? Like, we're seeing people take risks when it comes to animation. And there is this new, like, obviously, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, take a shot, we'll get it out of the way early. But Eric, there is a movie coming out on Netflix really soon. It's like a K-pop Demon Slayer anime. Have you seen the trailer for that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah, it's a K-pop group that's like, they're like Demon Slayers, and the trailer comes out I think tomorrow. We're recording this on the evening of May 21st.
Is it literally called K-pop Demon Hunters?
I think K-pop Demon Slayer, I think. K-pop Demon Hunters.
Okay. It's a
K-pop
animated musical fantasy action comedy film.
Dude, there's a little 30-second snippet on Twitter that I saw today. I was like, I'm fucking in. This looks cool. Like, I'm gonna watch this.
I'm gonna
so
look at that.
Maybe that's our international feature for July. It comes out June 20th. It might have worked out, actually. I totally forgot about it until just now. So we're seeing people be a little bit more creative and out there with their animation. We talk about pretty much every animated film that we talk about, how Disney is in this loop where we're like the animation is stale. So that right away for sure is a standout, and I'm sure even somebody that jumped in for the first time, like I said, will be a little taken aback. But ultimately, I don't think that anybody could come away from this and think that that it's, you know, not good.
Yeah, no, of course, and it's really interesting to see how audiences reacted to this film, because this movie grossed almost $300 million worldwide, the 6th highest grossing Japanese film of all time, and it's the highest grossing basketball film of all time. Your Wikipedia facts for the day. So that is pretty interesting when it comes down to it, but I don't know. To be fair, you know, when we talk about basketball films,
I was gonna say, what are the other basketball films? Are there also? Can I guess them? Are there also like it's just American basketball films on there too?
I'm gonna assume it doesn't really.
You don't have the list.
Out. I might have to find it.
Okay.
Yeah, I might have to go find that information. Let me see if I can.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to think of like what would be the other top tier basketball movies. Like obviously like Coach Carter,
Space Jam.
Jam. I'm trying to think.
Really all we're saying is that the bar is low. You know?
Right. And here's the thing is I think I would have enjoyed this more seeing it on a big screen because of the animation. And I didn't know anything else really about this anime specifically going into it. Eric, what did you know other than, you know, there's a basketball anime and a manga out there that's really popular?
Not very much. I heard about this, and then it's like Koro no Basket or Karuko no Basket. I'm probably butchering that, but there are two basketball series that I'm familiar with. That one, and then this one. And I knew it was like an older 90s anime, and I had seen it represented in some fashion, which is why it was on my radar. But like, other than that, not very much on my radar. I didn't know when this movie came out. Phil, this movie is a 2022 film. I did not have that on my radar at that year. But again, as we went into 2023 and beyond, this movie kept popping up in circles that I listened to about anime and film. So it was always kind of, I don't want to say a bucket list movie, but it always was a movie that I thought we would eventually get to, considering you're the basketball head, I'm the anime guy. It seemed like potentially a match made in heaven, with the assumption that it was kind to new viewers. And we'll talk about whether or not it was in a moment. I do want to bring up other movies, Phil, because the list came up. No site is referencing this movie, which is weird. But it does seem to be the highest one. Space Jam, White Man Can't Jump, White Men Can't Jump, Like Mike, Glory Road, Uncle Drew, Semi-Pro.
Semi-Pro. God.
Eddie, Hoosiers,
okay.
Love and Basketball, Air Bud.
Okay, Love and Basketball is a rom-com, so that shouldn't count.
But basketball. Listen,
okay,
they have Inside Out 2 listed as a hockey movie. So
there is hockey in it.
There is hockey. So, yeah. Here's also my thing, and I don't think I've ever actually voiced this before, but I'm a big sports fan. We both are. We've talked about that here in the podcast, and sometimes a lot of those things don't really cross. There's not a lot of Venn diagram between anime and also big-time sports fans as far as professional sports. That doesn't happen very often. I am not a big fan of, like, sports movies because one thing that we really don't like here on the podcast, Eric, is what? Cliches. And every sports movie, it just cannot beat the real thing. So, like, what just happened yesterday, again, to give non-sports fans an idea, like, what happened between the Knicks and the Pacers yesterday, Eric, cannot be scripted. It just happens, and that's what makes sports so incredible. The Jaguars coming back from 27-0. If it happened in a movie, you'd be like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. But when it happens in real life, and there's real-life consequences, it cannot be beat. That's why, like, it is cinema in and of itself. So, like, I don't watch a lot of sports films because, again, they can just write somebody is going to win, right? Yeah. Like, films such, like, exceptions would be like Remember the Titans, where it's not really about the football. You know what I mean? Like,
or the Rookie, which is an excellent film. Also, true stories. So, things like that, where the sports of it aren't necessarily, like Coach Carter, aren't necessarily, like, the crux of the film. So, like, that's always a tough thing for me too, because you kind of know how this is going to end. Like, oh, the character scores the winning touchdown, makes the winning shot, scores the winning goal, something like that. And I'm interested to see, like, why that works for us in something such as Blue Lock, which we are representing here today, and why it maybe didn't work as much here in the first Slam Dunk.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to, before we get into some of the criticisms of this movie, talk about any other positives that maybe we wanted to highlight. The animation is a big part of it. I do also think that the structure of the movie is interesting. I will say for not knowing anything about these characters, having the back and forth between the game and the flashbacks, I will say worked more times than it didn't for me. I don't know that it was a fully positive element, but we were introduced to quite a bit of characters in a 2 hour and 4 minute runtime. And I will say that felt like a healthy runtime for the story that they were trying to tell within a singular game. So we'll keep some of the key plot points pretty spoiler free for this one, but those are probably some of the other big positives. I also did like the camaraderie between the main team, at least some of the core members of that team for the most part. We'll talk about the voice acting on the other side of it. I did watch this in dub, and you know I love a good dub. They're not all good though, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Phil, what any other kind of call outs you want to mention, stuff that you did enjoy about the film that maybe I didn't touch on just there?
Was this meant to be like a jumping off point for non-manga and original anime viewers, or no?
Yes.
So it was. Okay, so
that was like a direct quote from the director, I believe. I will try to find that exact quote if I can here.
Okay.
But when I was researching this, I was looking to see, like, is this something that new fans can enjoy? And the answer was supposed to be yes.
Yeah, because here's my, and because it's the only other sports anime I can reference, I'm going to bring up Blue Lock a lot, because they do this in Blue Lock obviously over the course of episodes. So they'll be in a game, but then we'll get a side story of a character, and then they'll sprinkle in some soccer, you know. And I think that works in a long episode format. And like you said, I think for the most part it was, I think it was like mixed results as well, as far as doing it here in the movie and in a 2-hour runtime. So I thought, you know, that it was going to be all about you know, the protagonist that we meet in the beginning who goes through tragedy, and then it turns out that we're going to get a little bit of actually every single one of these characters. And it's at one point I'm like, wait, this character doesn't have red hair in this flashback. Is this the same character? Am I still following the same person? Oh, this person is someone's brother. I don't. there were just things in there that I wasn't following, and that wasn't necessarily because it was confusing. It's because by that time I was a little uninterested. And again, we're kind of jumping ahead. I know you told me to put up some positives, but yeah. I'm trying here because I'm not trying to like be completely negative. It's like one of the worst things that can really happen when we watch anything, whether it be movie, TV show, video game, is you get a little bored, and that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, and that's definitely been my line of thinking for sure. The way, I believe this was the art director or the color designer, somebody that worked on the film, potentially the director, it's not very clear here, but the reason the title The First Slam Dunk was chosen, it's a movie that wants the audience familiar with the story to experience it as if it was their first time, but those unfamiliar with it to have this be their first slam dunk experience. So that was a key statement that led me, in addition to some of the reviews by people who had watched it and not watched it, to think that this would be a good introduction. So Phil, kind of transitioning into some of the opportunities for this movie, I don't feel this is a good introduction to the franchise.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's too much going on. They try their best with flashbacks, but I would assume those would be more effective on a second watch and more context of the anime. So it also is like not just any game, it's like a game to get them to a championship. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like we needed to spend some pretty decent time with all of these characters together. So like, I like their camaraderie as much as we got, but it wasn't very fleshed out. And I think that is a key issue. There is also a lot of drama that happens here. I mean, Jesus Christ, that poor mother. That poor mom.
Yeah, she was going through it. She needed therapy.
Through it. So
the first therapy session. That's what movie she needs to be in.
Also, surprisingly, lack of slam dunks, if we're being honest.
Not enough slam dunks.
Right?
The main character can't even slam dunk.
Yeah, can't even
I
slam
thought
dunk.
I would at least maybe connect with that kid, because I also was a short player. I'm still short, but I was also the shortest player on the court when I played basketball. But
just
you know,
a friendly reminder,
I also didn't tell my brother to go out into the sea and kill himself.
Yeah,
that's so that never happened to me. So maybe I needed more trauma.
Kind of crazy. Just, you know, in another world, you're in the Philippines and you're the center.
That's true.
So
that is true. I'm dominating out there. So in another life.
But what are some other opportunities, Phil, that you want to maybe discuss? Because I know you have maybe a little bit more of them than I did, but not by much.
Yeah, because here's the thing. So I think with probably, I'm sure this is the case with a lot of sports anime. Like there's that volleyball one. I can't imagine that any of the stakes are like life and death, which is what a lot of the anime that we consume is. There's something on the line, like people could die. You know what I mean? Like I can't imagine. Why am I blanking on the name of the solo leveling main character?
Jinwoo.
Imagine Jinwoo like crossing over a demon, like something like that. Like that's not gonna work. He's just gonna like stab in the heart. So, in order to make up for the lack of really consequences, there has to be something else like really at stake. Like here, I just did not feel that. So like with Blue Lock, these players are playing for their soccer future, their football future, right? If they get eliminated from Blue Lock, they can never play on the national team and play in the World Cup. And that is huge. So like it's difficult for me to really care about two high schools I've never heard of, a bunch of characters I've really never heard of as well. And they're throwing all this backstory in, which would have been more interesting in the long form as like episodes like they do in Blue Lock. So we get attached to characters, and then when they get essentially Blue Lock's version of killed off, like we're emotional about it because we've gotten to know them, we've gotten to spend time with them, and those relationships get to build up. So I just don't see how people can say this is a good introduction when there's so much layered. That can definitely tell these are layered characters, but doing it in this format in a 2-hour runtime, that doesn't really feel like it does justice to them. And now I'm coming away from it not wanting to watch the anime or read the manga because I had a subpar performance in the movie, and that's not fair to what has gone into this story. But that's what happened.
Yeah. I wonder what it would be like reading a sports manga. Like, I've
Right.
never wanted to fully read Blue Lock for that reason, although I really enjoy the characters. You're probably reading it for that. Like, the characterization, the dramatization of those characters and what they're going
What's happening
through.
in between the match? That's what we're reading for. Like that's
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like, could you make that argument about fight scenes in manga? Like, I don't know. You know, that's maybe a conversation for another day. I think for me, I don't know that I was ever gonna get invested enough to go back to watch an older anime, especially given, you know, some of our history, the hits and misses, more misses than hits when it comes to that. So I don't know. Like, again, I was kind of hoping this would be a fresh story, kind of a clean story that we would get that would pay homage to it, because it's also all new voice actors, from what I understand. They did not bring back the original voice actors, very similarly for that reason. This was kind of supposed to be a new storytelling of these characters. So very interesting choices overall. I think trying to have your cake and eat it too, trying to make your existing fan base happy and also introduce it to brand new people. We also only know Blue Lock really as our sports anime, but there are so many things about that. And I do want to mention as a positive, the last minute of the game, for me, I want to know what your thoughts were, definitely bumped up my score a tad bit, because I was invested. Now, I was also almost in the same boat. I was like borderline bored. I wasn't quite there. That's why when that last minute happens in the game, I was actually kind of invested. And I really enjoyed it. And I know you haven't finished watching season 2 of Blue Lock, but Blue Lock, and it's so much better, unfortunately, Blue Lock has a final matchup in the last bit of the final match of the season. And it's some of the best animation I've ever seen. It's some of the best storytelling and how everything happens. I'm obsessed with it. The first Slam Dunk didn't quite give me that feeling because, you know, you spend all this time with the characters in a show and you get to that moment. And even if it's a little cliche, it's executed really well. And I think that's why we like Blue Lock as a show. The first Slam Dunk doesn't quite do that for me, but there were elements of it. You know, elements of that sports intensity, that moment you feel in crunch time. And I don't know, it was something about that last minute of the game that like really elevated it for me. Did it do anything like that for you? And then maybe just the sports in general, like how did you react to the basketball of it all?
Yeah, so first I'll answer the first part, and as far as at the end, at that point I had already kind of like was already really disinterested in what was going on, and obviously you know what's going to happen with the comeback. And again, I think that's just a sports movie thing for me personally, that I cannot really get into it or get excited. Now, like mixing in like manga panels and then making it silent, like all that is really, really cool. And I think it would have definitely, I know it would have hit much more if yeah, I had been invested the first hour and 45 minutes, so it didn't do anything to affect my score because at that point I had already kind of made up my mind because I had not checked out, but I had already been relatively disinterested. But it is a really, really cool sequence. It came at the end of like a story that I wasn't really interested in and characters that I hadn't really not bought into, but just didn't necessarily care too much about. And the second part was, the basketball of it. I touched on that a little bit in the beginning. It's sound design and just the pure nostalgia and the kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? The feeling you get when you just like hit a shot and there's just, it's just nothing but net. That type of euphoria, that's the word I was looking for, is unmatched, and they nailed it in this. And it is so good. And you really feel like the importance of every single basket. And it's from a technical standpoint, from if like an actual basketball fan, a lot of this looked really good. Of course, there's some stuff in there that is, overblown for anime purposes, and but for the most part, all of it was really technically sound. I will just say that the coach was pissing me off for not calling a timeout sooner when they're doing like this full court press. I'm like, call a timeout and like, also, probably medical malpractice to let the red-haired guy come back into the game.
Probably, yeah, like
like a teenager.
Yeah, like possible career-ending injury.
Yeah, so some of that's frustrating, but the basketball of it, yeah, I can't really speak on soccer because I played soccer as like a kid, but I can't. We like Blue Lock because it is fantastical, because it is absolutely ridiculous, because we do see a character sprint down the field and like flames come out of their feet.
Yeah, he's like a missile.
Yeah, I love that in Blue Lock, but for this, as somebody who played basketball and is still a really big basketball fan, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I was just very curious how that kind of weighed into your score, because I kind of gave you the heads up before you had watched it. Like, I don't know if you're gonna like this one. I don't know if you're gonna like it. I watched it. And I was like, I did like it, but I'm curious how much the basketballness of it all is going to weigh into your score, either positively or negatively. So I'm glad to see, at least on that aspect, from watching it from a fan of the sport, it was at least worth a watch. As far as the reception of this movie and what our scores were, I think that's a great transition point, unless there were any other kind of criticisms you had for the movie. I think the biggest crime is that this is not as catered to someone unfamiliar with the story, and I think for that reason it can make the story more bland than it already is for being a traditional sports story, right? And I think it doesn't do the movie any favors. So anything else you want to call out before we go into reception and scores?
No, because anything else is not fair, and I understand why people enjoyed this. It just wasn't for me, but it certainly is for a lot of other people. Like you said, Eric, it grossed a ton of money in the box office, and I do think it would have been a more enjoyable experience on a big screen. When it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, it is pretty much as high as you can possibly get, tomato meter-wise, 100% certified fresh, and a 99% popcorn meter score. Over on IMDb, it is currently carrying an 8 out of 10, which anything above a 7.5 on IMDb is really good. And then when we get to Letterboxd, it is sitting at a 4.2 out of 5. I ended up giving this a 2.5 out of 5, and really most of that, if not all of it, is specifically the animation style. And like I've already talked about, the basketball itself is really, really good. But when I find myself not really caring too much about the characters, when there is obviously a very emotional plot point, not only the emotional through line for what is essentially the main character, but also these other characters. If I'm not buying into that, then I can't really give it at least a 3, which is like a movie that I would possibly watch again. I don't really have any interest in looking into this anymore and going back and learning more about the characters of the film. So yeah, 2.5 for me.
Yeah, understandable. For me, I was right there with you at a 2.5 for this movie. I would say almost unrecommendable to anyone who hasn't seen it. But I was invested enough in the characters and the story and enjoying the animation and the basketball enough that by that final minute, like, again, I cannot stress that final minute and the way that was executed. I couldn't help but get invested, and I think that at least gave it enough to bump it up to a 3 for me. I think this movie, I can understand at a 2.5. I have a little bit more of a hard time understanding how someone could think this is great in any way, shape, or form. Putting it at a 3, I could still kind of see that. It's definitely far from a perfect film, I think, in general, but I can at least see it. And Phil, for a movie that is ranked number 4 on Tomato Meter for anime films, I think I was just expecting a little bit more, and I'm a little disappointed. But I also have to understand with this particular series, it's molded into something where when we're featuring international films are just like everything else. There are going to be highs, there are going to be lows, there's going to be good films, and there's going to be films that don't quite vibe with us. I do recommend at a 3 though that you make your mind up by watching it. And that's kind of where I ended. And if you're curious, Phil, on my international films, we have 33 ranked through Letterboxd. This fell in between Blue Eye Samurai and The Host.
Let's see where I have it here. I have it pretty low. What number is that for you?
It was at number 27.
Okay, so we're not too far off. I'm at 29. It is right behind Belle and in front of Bahubali, which I forget that we watched all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know, like, how many of these scores, how much crossover there is between, crossover, get it? How much is there in terms of people that are real basketball fans and then also enjoy this? I'd really like to know, because obviously in, all over the world, basketball is really popular, but Japan specifically, basketball, and then speaking as a Filipino in the Philippines, like, basketball is huge. So I really would like to know some of that crossover and who, how many people also watch the NBA or international basketball. Some of these reviews are pretty funny. Japanese Top Gun Maverick, I thought was pretty funny. I saw one earlier today. I can't find it now, and it was like, damn, if only basketball were real. So I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, people really enjoy this, and certainly would implore others to check it out and form your own opinion. Do we have some comparisons for other sports movies, Eric, or basketball movies? We kind of went over some of them, I guess.
Yeah, some of them. I mean,
do you wish we had watched The Last Dance?
Yeah, I was going to say, the Last Dance, let's see. The Last Dance does have a slightly higher Letterboxd score, so maybe
yeah, man,
that was the choice. It's a 10-part documentary film, and I just don't know.
I just figured that you care enough about Michael Jordan that you would be interested in watching it.
No, for sure. Like, I get that. But does our audience
I'm going to
care?
watch it. Yeah, I'm going to watch it regardless. But
no, you should.
Yeah, for sure.
You watch it and let me know if you really are determined.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch, like, Air.
I would like to see...
I've seen an eighth of Air with Ben Affleck
That's
and Matt
the one
Damon
with,
and Viola Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen an eighth of that on TikTok.
I would like us to maybe venture into a documentary that is about pop culture. You know what I mean? Like, there are documentaries about, like the older video games and stuff like that. I think that would be fun, but yeah, I don't know if the audience would enjoy it.
And again, a 10-part
as much as I would.
A 10-part documentary is a lot to ask when it comes to that. But listen, if you're out there and you want us to check it out, all you got to do is tell us. We're honestly, it's only going to take about 2 of you. So if you tell us, we might do it.
Since Blue Lock, and then now that you've watched this, are there any? Do you have any desire to go into the other sports anime? Like, obviously, Haikyuu is the big one, right?
Man, I've wanted to get into Haikyuu. It's just too much, man. There's too many.
Oh, is Haikyuu volleyball One Piece?
Yeah.
How many episodes of that are there?
There are, man. It says 85. That can't be right though, because there's also like OVAs. There's anime films. Like, there's like 4 to 5 seasons of this thing. It's not quite One Piece, but in sports anime, I think you would compare it to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other sports anime, like, I don't know. I'm looking at a couple of these, and I think Slam
I was
Dunk
surprised when you told me about Blue Lock. So when you told me that you were enjoying that, so
there's been a couple of boxing ones that I've wanted to see.
See, boxing I can buy into. That I think there's something about a fight that's just very anime coded. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's anime coded, so that I can buy into. But when it comes to something like this, I just think it wasn't meant to be. So
yeah. Kuroko's basketball, I think, is what Kuroko no Basket. So
there are other movies as well in this series, right? I think isn't there actually a second Slam Dunk?
There were several Slam Dunks early on, like when the series was out. Slam Dunk 4.
Oh, Slam Dunk the movie, Slam Dunk 2, Slam Dunk 3, Slam Dunk 4. Yeah, see, and also at the end, and this is spoilers, but it's fine. So at the end, are they in college? Did they transfer?
And I don't think I care.
Is there AAU basketball in Japan? I don't know.
I don't think so, but those were our thoughts, guys, on the first slam dunk. Again, wanted more from
More
it,
like
but
the first layup.
More like the first layup. Yeah, that's
get it.
We probably should have thrown that in earlier instead of at the end of the episode. That was a layup, and we missed it. But Phil,
we dove into the audience and broke our back.
Yeah, Phil, I'm gonna lob the closing of this episode to you.
Yeah, let me throw this down so we can just wait for the comments to come in. Good thing you said this is dropping. Oh, this is the week of Bold, isn't it? That this comes
it's like
out?
a couple days before.
So we'll
Bold.
see. We'll get to test who's listening.
If you're listening,
I think Alex Lee isn't Alex Lee going to be at?
Alex Lee isn't it? He is going to be in there. I don't know that any of the voice actors will listen to this. I will say,
large voice actor audience.
He was great.
No, he wasn't.
If you listen
his
to this,
character
Alex.
is very good.
The dub, it's overall, I kind of wish I would have watched it in sub.
I do too. Actually, I got halfway through and I was like, man, I probably should have watched this in sub.
It's more the dialogue.
I agree.
It's more the dialogue than the voice acting performances.
Yeah,
so
and you got to do what you got to do with voice flaps, and it's hard, and so it's
tough.
So,
but yeah, no, that is what it is. I would recommend if you're listening to this from Bold and you happen to stay to the end, this is your first episode. Check out our episode last week on Perfect
We really
Blue.
enjoyed that.
We really enjoyed that. We do like older stuff, apparently, and that's one of them. Yeah. So there you go. But yeah, this came out 2022, based off an older anime. I just think there were so many elements working against it that it was just too much to overcome.
Yeah, well, one thing you don't have to overcome is how to find the rest of our content. It's really easy to do that, actually. You can go to the Linktree link in the show notes of this episode. And one thing you can do, of course, is follow us over on social media, the most important ones being Instagram, TikTok, our thriving Discord community, as well as Twitch. We are on Twitch a lot now, so we're having a lot of fun over there. You can also find all of our episodes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever. While you are doing that, please also make sure you're leaving 5-star reviews, letting people know that you're enjoying the show. Those reviews are very, very crucial to the life of a podcast, so we appreciate those of you that have done so already. And you can tag us, let us know that you're listening, let other people know that you are listening and enjoying the show. We really very much appreciate that, and we love seeing it. It's a good boost for our confidence, so we thank you so much. And also Eric and I's personal journeys, as Eric continues to pump out content over on his personal pages, and my ongoing pursuit to be a full-time voice actor. So we got a lot going on within the Wait For It podcast group. But if you find yourself maybe wanting to get episodes a little bit earlier, seeing some behind the scenes stuff, becoming a part of a really cool community, Eric will let you know about that before logging us out.
Yeah, so of course, all the free stuff is very much appreciated, but if you can go the extra mile and join our Patreon, you'll be supporting the show along with our friends of the show, Briar, Stefan, T3 Kato, Vintage Macaroni, Corey's From the World Is My Burrito, and Nick Casbaro, for the author of the Vidalarium series. We appreciate all of them supporting us monthly through Patreon, and in exchange, they're getting behind the scenes early access, very early access now, to these type of episodes, plus a lot more. If you were at Bold Matsuri, we more than likely, around the time of this episode dropping, we'll have this available to you, a vlog of Bold and how that went for us behind the scenes. So a lot of reasons to join us and support us there. But again, if you can't do that, join our Discord, join into the conversation, click on an episode, give us those 5-star ratings, and share it with your friends, like, comments, subscribes, all the stuff you know to do. But with that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And please don't forget, for the podcast, we release new episodes every Wednesday. And all you have to do is wait for it.
This is the Wait For It podcast.